And you go ahead and say hi to.
Hello, Mr. Russo. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, my man. How are you?
Oh, great. I'm great. Thank you so much. And thank you for being on the show with us today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
So just before we go on with the camera to the studio with our presenter, Lucas Alexander, I'll just make sure that everything is running here with the audio and everything with the technical stuff.
How's the lighting? All right?
It's pretty good. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'll just turn on the camera to the studio. Let me know when you can see Lucas. He should be on the other angle there.
Lucas, how you doing?
Hello, Gianni. Wonderful. This is great. So nice to see you. Thank you for being on here today.
The age of truth. I like this.
Yeah, right. Wonderful. And can I just ask you, are you in New York?
Yes, New York.
In New York. All
In
right.
fact, I'm sitting in an apartment that I walked into when I was 13. It was owned by Frank Costello, who raised me basically. And then when he died, he left me it.
Wow, that's amazing. We want to get into that certainly.
Very affluent area.
Yes.
Some of my ex-wives let me know when they changed my zip code to 10065, they advertised that it's the most elaborate, expensive neighborhood in the world. So they all wanted a bigger allowance.
That's incredible. I love New York. I miss it so much. I've been there so many times, so I know it quite well.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So that's great. So yeah, I guess I can hear you fine. So I just think we're gonna, when Lauge says that everything is running and okay, we can just go on.
We're ready here as well? Yes, so I'll just count down from 5 and then we will begin. All right. So, yeah. Okay. So 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hi everyone, thanks for watching. You can support our work on our website ageoftruth.tv. And please like our videos, subscribe to our channels on YouTube, BitChute and Brighteon. And remember to hit the bell for notifications. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook. To be sure not to miss any of our shows, you can sign up for our newsletter on our website ageoftruth.tv.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Age of Truth TV. I'm Lucas Alexander in Copenhagen, Denmark. It's the 5th of October 2021. This is a special edition of our show featuring a very special and extraordinary gentleman with an extraordinarily eye-opening life story. He's an actor, singer, performer, businessman, and former casino owner in Las Vegas. He refers to himself as the Godfather of Hollywood, and he has released a book with the title Hollywood Godfather. He began his acting career in the legendary motion picture The Godfather from 1972, and he claims that his acting teacher was Marlon Brando. His singing teacher was his close friend Frank Sinatra, and Marilyn Monroe spent an entire weekend teaching him the ways of love and how to be a man when he was only 15. He claims not to be part of the Mafia, but has been associated with and worked for some of the most infamous and well-known mob dons in history. He is honest and candid, even about the people he killed, and his reasoning for it, and he claims to have known the people behind the assassination of JFK and Marilyn Monroe, and what really took place then, which changed the course of history. There's a lot to talk about, and this is an in-depth conversation with a gentleman who has lived an extraordinary life. Gianni Russo. Good evening from Copenhagen, Denmark, and good afternoon to the fascinating Mr. Gianni Russo, joining us from the great city of New York, New York. It's wonderful to have you with us here today. Welcome on Age of Truth TV.
Oh, no, please. I don't know how great I am, but I'm happy to be here.
You have an absolutely incredible, extraordinary, and sensational life story, and you have written your autobiography, Hollywood Godfather, where you have revealed the most extraordinary things about your life experiences, what happened to you as a child, as a young man, as a man, and then when you became an actor. In the film The Godfather in 1972, where you played the role of Carlo, which is probably what people know you best from, but you've gone on to do so many films and television shows, and you are also a singer. You say that Frank Sinatra was your singing teacher, Marlon Brando from The Godfather was your acting teacher, and Marilyn Monroe taught you how to be a man. And of course, you have a lot to talk about there, about your affair with Marilyn Monroe, and we will also get into what you can reveal about the JFK assassination and the whole tragedy that happened in the early 60s with the death of JFK, Marilyn Monroe, and Dorothy Kilgallen, the famed celebrity columnist and reporter that was also killed in 1965 because she knew too much about the whole JFK assassination. We have so much to cover, and I know that we won't get to cover all of that in one interview. So in the next 2 hours, we'll do part one with Gianni Russo, and then we'll do part two, where we can get into many more details about your extraordinary life and your association and work for the Mafia and the big mob dons in America during the 50s, 60s, and up till today. So, of course, people will know you best for your role as Carlo in The Godfather from 1972, but your own life has been even more extraordinary, fascinating, and outrageous, almost unbelievable than any movie script could actually provide and write. But why do you think that you were destined for such a wild, strange, very dangerous, unusual, and colorful life?
Well, for me, I didn't realize what I was getting into because I met my mentor. One of my mentors is a gentleman called Frank Costello. And this is my second pandemic that we're all experiencing through the world. My first one was in 1949. I got polio. And I was quarantined to a state hospital here in New York called Bellevue. And I was there for 5 years. And the whole left side of my body was, affected by it. And with that said, once I got out, I used that deformity for a while just to expand at 12 years of age to try to, service myself in business and whatever, because I never wanted to go home again. I could never figure out why my parents couldn't come and visit me, because at the age of 6.5, 7, when I got to the hospital, you don't understand why your parents are not visiting you and you're having your birthdays and everything alone.
Why didn't they come, Gianni?
It was quarantined. We were so bitter. We lost 2,300 kids just in that hospital over that period of time. It was such a contagious disease. And this was, I was a part of the experiment of Jonas Salk, which is now the polio vaccine that's, given around the world and has basically abolished polio. So with that said, I was in a very angry mood, to say the least. And anybody who's read my book, they know how I got out of the hospital.
Please tell us what actually happened at that sanitarium. It was a sanitarium, wasn't it, or a hospital?
It was a sanitarium, but they quarantined 2 floors specifically for polio. It's still there. It's still a sanitarium. It's probably one of the most known in the world, Bellevue Hospital on 30th Street in the East End of New York. And sometimes I walk past it, when I'm feeling like a little melancholy or whatever, I go there just to stand outside that building and realize what I came from. And I should be very happy the rest of my life. And it was a wild awakening for a 12-year-old boy, because there was one candy striper, I don't know what they call it throughout the world. They used to call them, the young girls in training for nursing, candy stripers. They wear red and white, so a uniform, so you could see who they are that they're training. And her name was Dolores Barone. And she happened to be Carlo Gambino of the Gambino crime family's niece. And I'm being very explicit about that, because if it wasn't for her and her uncle, God knows where I would be. And she started to warn me as I matured in the ward. I got there when I was 6.5, and now I'm at 11 and a half. And she warned me about this one gentleman, Harold Gardner, who was a physical therapist for all the patients. And as I matured as a kid, I was getting good looking. And she said, you have to watch out for Harold. And I didn't know what she was talking about, because, not like today, everything is so exploited on the internet and everything else, that he was a pedophile. I didn't even know what a pedophile was. And she didn't use that word. That's the more politically correct word she told me that I could say today on the air.
He was a child molester.
Yeah. And he was taking advantage of the fact that because he had such access to the patients, and we were all very naive, not like today. Children, my grandchildren, everybody's, exposed to everything. We weren't. And so fortunately, my situation, my left side, he didn't need to give me physical therapy, because my elasticity muscles, that's what was deformed. So you couldn't massage them. So he tried to attack me in the restroom. And our restrooms were for both male and female, because the privacy we had was just a canvas drape over the stall that you were using. And for some odd reason, because my right side was strong enough, one day I'm dragging myself, because once you had strength, they would never give you a bedpan anymore. They tried to encourage you not to just lay in bed, which a lot of kids did. They just gave up on life. And, they didn't care. And I did, fortunately. And with that said, I was dragging myself on the rails to the bathroom, and there was a small porter's broom, those short little brooms they use in the theaters. And for some reason, it was leaning against the wall, and I just put it under my right arm and kept going. And then when I used to get to the toilet, it was a situation where I was not in a hurry to go anywhere. I've been in that bed for years, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And just for people to get the picture of this, it's not like hospital rooms today with television. We had nothing. You just stared at the ceilings. So with this said, I broke off the bristles of the broom. Again, don't know why. Threw it in the basket. And as I was sitting on the toilet, I was sharpening one end of the broom handle, the top, into a spear in the grout of the tile, the separation on the floor. And don't know why I did it. And every day when I leave there, I'd put it under the radiator. The radiators were hung. I didn't want anybody to find it.
So it was like a weapon for you for protection.
Yeah. Again, not knowing, but, I felt with what she was telling me and that I needed something. And so every day when I got there, we'd take it, lay it on the floor. And sure enough, one night he came. And he's trying to pull the drape. I could see the shoes under the curtain line. I said, excuse me, I'll be right out. He said, you need any help? I said, no, please, I'm okay. But obviously he had more physical strength than me, and he pulled the curtain. And he proceeded to expose himself to me and trying to penetrate my mouth with his penis. And he didn't realize I had my hand on the broom, my right arm, which I've been dragging myself with. So my upper body on my right side was tremendously strong.
Did he try and force you?
Yes, that's what he was doing. He was holding my head and trying to force me to open my mouth. And, you know, I don't know how to say politically correct.
Well, you don't have to. This show is not about political correctness.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, you know, there's certain things you can't say. Well, anyway, he was trying to, you know, put his penis in my mouth, basically. And not knowing that I had the broom and I was sitting in the john, the angle of him over me. So with my right arm, I just used my left arm to guide it. And I hit him under the rib cage and drove it right through him. It pierced his heart. And it's like a nightmare. Anytime I have a fever or something comes back to me, he's running around this white tile bathroom screaming, spraying the bathroom with his own blood. And finally, the nurse came in. Dolores Marone was on duty that night. She threw a blanket over me. They took me out. I didn't know what happened to him. And they moved me to the mental ward on the 7th floor for observation. And this is all going on to a 12-year-old innocent kid that spent, you know, 5 years in this hospital.
So you speared him like Dracula, basically.
Yeah. Under the rib cage, fortunately. We'd never pierced his rib cage, but thank God it went under it and it stopped him from molesting all these other kids. He died. So again, I don't know what happened. They never told me.
What kind of experience was that for you at that age? I mean, not only that he tried to molest you, but that you actually did that and you witnessed this. You saw this happening before your eyes and the blood and him dying, actually. You killing a man at 12, even though he was a molester. This was a very outrageous and traumatizing situation, huh?
But you know what? I didn't feel that. I've been analyzed about this so many times. I had no remorse for the guy because I was wondering why the patients, because the only privacy we had in the room where they would draw the drapes around you and it'd spend a half hour, 45 minutes in it. And these kids looked like they were in shock when he left because I didn't know what was going on.
Did you hear screams?
No, I heard moaning and crying. And I don't know if he had his hand over their mouth. I don't know what went on back there. But I felt such relief killing this guy, which that I had to deal with in my own way. And then after being up there for 72 hours, they released me from the hospital because they wanted to sweep it under the rug. It was a government-funded hospital. I guess the last thing they wanted to know that they employed somebody that was harming these patients that were traumatized to begin with polio.
So you were never charged? You were just set free, let out there, even though you had polio?
I had polio, but I'm more mobile now. And see, what I did, I learned later on, all of these hospitals are subsidized by the government by the amount of patients they had. So they probably would have never let me out for another 2-3 years because they were getting per head how many people. And now with the polio, people weren't coming in the droves that they were because fortunately the team was working.
So they were making money off sick children and making them even sicker or worse than they were, or what?
Well, I think that's why a lot of them stopped eating. They were just depressed. There was nothing to do. We weren't getting any schooling. We weren't getting anything.
But for 5 years, that must also be trauma. You must also be traumatized from that, not getting any physical attention at all, or what? Any love?
That's why Dolores Barone, to me, is like a saint and was my savior. Because even on my birthday, which gave me more encouragement, she brought me a little transistor radio. They just came out, and they sent it from the neighborhood. Again, not knowing till later on what my family meant in that neighborhood and who my uncles were. So I put this transistor radio on, and I was already in the hospital about 5.5 months. And my birthday is December 12th. So at 6 o'clock, I turned the radio on. And they're broadcasting about Frank Sinatra's birthday, December 12th.
And what year was this, Gianni?
This was I was just entering 1950.
1950, yeah. And Frank Sinatra was already a big star at that time, huh?
My God, major. Doing 6 shows a day at the Paramount Theater with the Bobby Soxers and all that. And what I felt, because they were, WNEW, I remember who the announcer was, because now this guy became my mentor, because here he was from Hoboken, an Italian-American from humble beginnings. His mother was a barmaid. His father worked down there on the piers. And he encouraged me, saying, like, if this guy can make it, I can make it. So at that point on, I said, I'm going to get out of here. And I never lost that drive, even now, as my oldest son told me the other day, in 14 months, you're going to be 80 years old. And I hung up on him.
How do you look so great at 80, almost 80?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have a will. Thank God. I watch what I do. I walk 3 or 4 miles every other day, and I've been blessed. I mean, I say this constantly to encourage people. In fact, even the last sentence in my book is, yes, you can. Because if you have a will, I don't care what your background is, what ethnic or even economic situation you're in. They told me, and it's been reported, that I made a couple of $100 million. And I know why they're always asking me. And I always give them the same answer. Where is it? Because they've been trying to find it for years with me.
Well, you're not going broke anytime soon, huh? Are you?
No, not at all. I love business. In fact, I'm launching my clothing line now, La Cosa Mia by Gianni, which there's one of the people are saying, like, when are you going to stop? Why stop? I'm having too much fun.
Yeah, and we want to get into all of that. You have your Godfather wine and everything, and there's a lot to talk about. But I mean, please tell the audience a little bit about your background and how you got involved with the mob dons, actually. And also Frank Costello, please also tell the audience a little bit about him. Not everybody will know who he actually was. And you were 12 years old. You were told to get out of that sanitarium, even though you had polio, but you never contaminated anybody else. So maybe it wasn't that contagious anyway. I mean, that's also one thing.
Well, by then it wasn't, because I was already part of the Jonas Salt experiment. I was on that vaccine already a year, because Jonas Salt in 53, 54 developed the salt vaccine for polio.
And you never had any side effects from taking that one?
I never had anything since then. I don't have a cold, which is so bizarre when you think, living in New York, 17 million people. I don't get the flu. I don't get a cold. I don't get a splinter. I mean, I've been shot, stabbed, thrown out a window, but nothing normal.
Well, nothing normal, we know, and that's why your life story is so fascinating. But I mean, some people, we've talked to doctors as well, they said that the ingredients in the vaccines back then were quite different from the ones they have today.
Oh, I know. Well, at the first, I felt bad because, again, once they started testing people, I was in a 20-bed ward, and they split it in half. So 10 people got it, 10 people didn't. I didn't get it. And I'm saying, I was a little Catholic boy, all going to church every day with my grandmother until I went to this hospital. And I was saying, like, why is God doing this to me? Because, I believed in God and there's a reason for this. And I didn't do anything. What could I have possibly done it in 6 years of my life that I'm deserving this? Then they didn't give me the. So I got hysterical again and crying. And why? Good thing I didn't, because those first treatments, all those kids died within the next 10 days.
Really? Did they?
It escalated the virus. So those thousands of kids who were part of the experiment died.
You know that we actually hear similar stories happening now.
Oh, I know. And that's why, I think, it's nice that you're giving me this privilege to talk about it, because, everything is so political today. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely. It's outrageous, isn't it?
Oh, it's crazy. It's like, where are the true politicians, the true people who want to do something good for the world? And, it's just about money. Look at our president. He's crazy, Biden. This man, I don't even know how he got in. Or I think I have an idea, but I don't want to get into that.
He was not really elected, was he? This was rigged.
No, I know it. I think it's going to come out eventually. And when it does, it does. But it's not helping mankind. It's definitely not helping the United States and its image throughout the world.
They have been trying for decades now to usher in the New World Order, and they've talked about this publicly, even though a lot of people have not been paying attention to what all of these presidents and prime ministers have been saying in their public speeches even. And we know what is actually going on. This is also some of the topics we talk about in this show and have done for years. And when you know the game, you also know what's being played out. Step for step.
Well, see, the good news about me, I have 2 other passports, and I have guys around me, mentors like a Frank Costello. And for your audience who don't know who he was, Frank Costello was called the ambassador. He was the boss of the Genovese family when Vito Genovese went to prison. And then he was a mastermind in creating what was called the syndicate, where the Jews and the Italians got together worldwide. And that's when they opened Cuba, they opened the Bahamas with casinos, prohibition. He and Joe Kennedy during the 30s amassed $30 million each American. You know how much money that is? In the 30s, it's like $1 billion now.
And that was even during the financial crisis back then, huh?
Oh, I know. It was definitely during the financial crisis. It's like, but that's the intellect they had. And the building I sit in, he bought this building. With this money. This man was so powerful. And unbeknownst to me, when I got out of the hospital, I went to Magnotti's Bakery, who was a friend of my grandfather. And I didn't know why I went there. See, I'm very spiritual. I don't know who's guiding me. I think it's who I believe in, God. It could be a Buddha. I don't care, whatever it is. And whoever your audience believe in something other than yourself.
Well, we do know that law of attraction and that energy that you give from thinking and wanting certain things, that actually does manifest in your life, huh?
Oh, I totally believe that. To me, if you don't have the desire, you're going nowhere. And I don't care what it is. You take a guy like myself, I have no education. I've created, I don't know how many public trading companies. I'm head of 6 companies right now worldwide. And I just established myself in Liechtenstein because of what we're talking about, this world order, and they're trying to control everything. I've moved enough assets around. And my company, one of the reasons I got into the clothing business now is because I'm involved in Turkey. All my shoes are made there. I'm in Portugal for my shirts, and Barbados, Milan. And I'm getting so diversified. Now I'm going to Qatar, and I'm doing a big situation there next year with the Emirates. And so to me, I've left this country. If anybody read the book, or we may get into it, may not, I don't know how much time you have. I've left this country twice already. I left after the Kennedy assassination. There was warrants for my arrest for 22 months. I left another time when they were trying to get me to testify against John Gotti, which that's a kiss of death. And whether you're right or wrong, I'm not doing it. And I left again. But, and that's the emphasis basically, I think, if you, like you pointed out, if you believe in yourself, there's nothing you can't achieve. Unless you're, trying to become a rocket scientist in your lab at home. But I mean, there's things you can achieve. And I'm an advocate to exploit that to anybody. Because I mean, I have no diplomas and I've done very well for myself.
But please, Gianni, also, you often talk about that you've been extremely fortunate, and that certainly is a truth there. But I mean, who was protecting you, or how did you get involved in all of these incredible and extraordinary and also rather dangerous people running errands for them, and they gave you assignments? I think Frank Costello did that as well, who was, as you said, he was the boss of the Luciano family, right? And he died in 1973, actually 1 year after the Godfather movie was released with you in it. And I mean, how were you protected by all of these people? You had family ties to the mob as well, right?
Well, that was early on. My uncle Angelo was a major boss in Sicily, and they hung him in 1949 when they were cleaning up the La Cosa Nostra in Sicily. But unbeknownst to me, Frank Costello's mother and father came to America because of him. Vito Genovese came because of him. Carlo Gambino, at the age of 16 years of age, was a made man in Sicily, and they sent him here. All through those guys. And the last Don that just passed 97 years of age, I had the pleasure of spending the last few days of his life with him, because I went over deliberately, was Mr. Buffa, who was 97. But these guys had the foresight and knew, and they came to organize America, because the early people that were coming over and abusing the Italians and shaking down these people, their own people. And that's why Carlo Gambino came over, and they created the 5 families in New York. So unbeknownst to me, I'm selling ballpoint pens with my gimp arm, trying to take advantage of it, in front of the Sherry Netherlands, which is 2 blocks from my house right now, which is ironic when you think about it. I've never left this 6-block radius. And this man used to walk down the West Side every day, dapper, beautifully dressed, with another friend of his. I found out later it was his bodyguard. And he'd always stop and give me, he didn't know who I am. And he saw my ballpoint pens. He'd give me like a $5 bill in the 50s. That's like a $20 or a $50 bill, and never took a pen. But he would always hug me in a way that his right hand would wind up on my left shoulder, and just a nice gesture. This went on for months. I couldn't wait for this guy to come every day, because that was a lot of money. And my ballpoint pens, I was, selling them for $1. I was buying them on Delancey Street for 12 cents. They just came out. So one day I go down to have church with my grandmother. I'm sleeping in the bakery down there. And thank God again, I don't know why I was sleeping in a bakery, but it helped me in my life as I matured. I have no arthritis, no rheumatism, because I was sleeping in a coal furnace. There was no humidity there.
And your left side was fine after that, after you got out of the sanitarium and all of that?
No. Again, unbeknownst to me, I'm mixing 50-pound bags of flour, doing exercise. I was mixing dough, trying to earn a living. I didn't know it was building my body up. And today it's called dynamic tension. Because dough, you're pulling and pushing, then you wait for it to raise, you cut it to quarter-pound loaves, and you're doing more, kneading it again. So all of that exercise and all that dry heat cured my body. And my grandfather used to come every day, and we'd go for a walk. I thought he just wanted to walk for the neighborhood. he found out from his doctors, you got to keep exercising him like you do a horse.
So did you go and stay with your grandparents and not your parents? How was your relationship with your parents? Did you go back to them after leaving the sanitarium?
Nope, never did. But I took care of them because once I started making money, I just felt sorry for them. That my father was really a gaboon, basically, and a womanizer. And I don't want to say he was a womanizer where you think he's a good-looking guy. He was 5'4". My mother was gorgeous, and he used to beat her up. And I'm saying to myself, what is this guy, nuts or what? But no, I never went back, and thank God I didn't. You know, I was friendly on a very standoffish way. I bought them a house for $17,000 on Staten Island. I was 16. I paid cash for it. I was making a lot of money already because of Costello. But I would never I told even the builder, let them think they wanted in a lottery. I don't want any accolades. I don't want no thank yous. But even that, it's so funny. I bought that house. They lived there 30 years. And my sister said, well, what are we going to do with the house? I said, what do you mean? What are you going to do with the house? I bought that house. It's in my name. Their chin dropped because now the house was worth $400,000. Even God or whoever that is above me rewarded me for doing that. I wound up picking up $400,000 even on that investment. It was crazy.
And even though, and you did this for your parents, even though they actually didn't care much for you, huh?
No, my mother was so warped in her thinking and what she was doing. My father had her institutionalized, and he got it on. They put her away, and it was just it's sad, but yet it was rewarding for me to get out of it. I'm able to speak about it. I do a lot of motivational speaking. I try to do things for special children because I feel I was a special child and I overcame it.
But how was your childhood before entering the sanitarium? Was that okay, or what were you?
Yeah, I was in kindergarten, and my grandmother had the great dinners, and we knew nothing different, because you were surrounded by everybody in the neighborhood that was over 21 was an uncle or an aunt. That was the respect you showed them. So I thought I had the biggest family in the world, and everything was perfect. What couldn't be perfect for a 5 or 6-year-old kid? When you have your grandparents who are loving and your family's always worked, they were always busy. That was a way of life,
In the Italian community in New York, Little Italy.
Little Italy, Mulberry Street. Yeah. No, but I mean, so, my normalcy basically was at the date was August 16th, 1949. They came and picked me up and took me away. My mother took me to a clinic in the neighborhood, and she didn't know what was wrong with me. My father said, I just give him some aspirin, there's something wrong with him. Because I was actually, my bedroom was a closet in our walk-up apartment on Mulberry Street, because I already had 2 older sisters, and my father, being naive as he was then, no, he can't sleep with his sisters because they were putting a mattress in the foot of their bed. Nope. They've cleared out a closet. And I always use this as a joke. Next to me was a 5-gallon can of kerosene that used to fuel the heat in our apartment. And they talk about pollution. I was laying next to a 5-gallon kerosene can that every couple of minutes you hear bloop, 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 bloop. The fumes, I'd go to sleep whenever I went in that room, no matter what. So I was always going to say, if I ever get convicted on something, fortunately, as you probably know, I've had 2 other murders since then, and they were all ruled self-defense. But I was always going to use that, saying, wait a minute, my childhood brain damage put me away again. But I never had to use it. But I joke about it now. But it was, the days when you think about, they talk about air pollution, they talk about this. I was in a room with fumes of kerosene, lived there.
You survived more than that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, forget about it.
Wow. But do you think that when you got out and you were 12 and you started you were like a homeless kid or what? Just walking around the streets and making your own way there, or what?
You know, it made me feel at home, though, because I went to see Mr. Mignotti, Funza Mignotti, and he was a friend of my grandfather. The whole neighborhood knew, because, you know, this is a small community, and her being, Dolores being the nurse, they knew that I killed this guy, and they were all saying, well, the apple didn't fall far from the tree, figuring that my cousins in Italy, they do that all the time. So with that, I went there. So it was like a home, you know. He took me in, he gave me a job. I went there every night. My grandfather during the day, I would go see him. And then immediately when I saw Leo Rabinowitz, I went there with my grandfather to take a walk down there for him to get pencils for the club, because they play Ziggurat, they need the pads and pencils. And he was trying to convince him about these new ballpoint pens. He said, nah, just give me the pencils. So I went back the next day and told Mr. Rabinowitz, I could help you expand your business. And he's looking at me. I'm a gimp kid. And he was very nice. I remember his Russian Jewish accent. So how are you going to help me? Leo, come in. He's going to help us. You know, they were kidding. But what I came up with was a good plan. I said, give me 50 pens. I give nothing to no one. I said, let me explain to you. I'll take 50 pens. I'll go all on the streets, uptown, everywhere, and offer these pens. They're brand new ballpoint pens. And I'll have your business card. If they want more, they give them a business card. And I said, my grandfather told me, look a guy in the eye, shake his hand. Your word is your bond. He said, here's what I'll do. I'll do it one day. One day you don't show up, I'll go see your grandfather. I said, no problem. So that went on for a while. That's how I got in business. So I sold ballpoint pens, and it was a big hit because everybody had those ink pens with the fountain pen and all that. Even the ladies, the little pens, they loved them for their bags. And coming uptown was the smartest thing I did because everybody had money. And these people would give me $1 for something I spent 12 cents for. So that was a great return.
So you were a natural born businessman, huh? It was in your genes.
I think, that's what I really do believe that.
But do you think that Frank Costello and his bodyguard, do you think that they knew who you were and who you were related to?
No, you won't believe how that happened. Because I used to stop after Magnotti's and go see Carlo Gambino. He used to go to Ferrara's, and Ferrara's is still there. It's been there since the 1800s. And he liked the coffee there, just out of respect. I used to call him Uncle Carlo, and he was just a nice guy. Walking out next door, and that store is still there, is a religious store where you could buy all your holy pictures. And Joe says to me, come here, I want to show you something. Just to say it, right? I said, yeah. And now I'm 13, And it was a Lagorn, the horns that they wear for the evil eye, or this, do you see the symbol? The Sicilians are very superstitious. But this one had a hunchback on it. It was a Lagorn with a hunchback. And I said, what's that about? He said, well, the Sicilians are very superstitious to touch a cripple for luck. Well, the blood drained from my head. Now I realize why this guy never took a penny, he always hugged me. This is Frank Costello. This has been going on now for almost a year. So on the way to the train station, as it would be, there's a lady selling rabbit's foot. That used to be another symbol for luck. So I took a pink one. I bought it for 25 cents. I put it in my pocket.
A real rabbit's foot?
Yeah, they sell them in America as a. They bleach in different colors. People make them as keychains for luck. Superstition like a horseshoes for luck. There's got all these things in America that are symbols of luck. So now here comes this guy. I'm waiting for him. I still don't know who he is. Very well dressed, and he gave me $5 every day or $3, whatever it was for something. So now he comes, he goes through the ritual, puts me to $5, goes to, put his hand around me, and I moved. And he looks at the guy that was with him, Blackie. I found out his name that day, actually. And I go to move again. He touched me. I said, hold it. He said, what are you doing? I said, it's what you're doing. And I was very sincere. I said, I thought you liked me. You're using me for some luck. I'm some kind of freak to you. And I gave him this pink rabbit's foot. And the bodyguard said, do you know who this guy is? I said, no, and I really don't care. I'm not some symbol of luck or some token of him. And don't come around no more. And he says, do you know who I am? I said, no, and I don't care. He says, what's your name? And I told him my name, Gianni Russo. He says, who's Angelo Russo to you? I said, Angelo Russo. He's my great uncle. He says, when's the last time you saw him? I said, well, if you know him, I didn't see him. He said, oh, yeah, why? I said, because they hung him in 1949 in Sicily. He never came to this country. So he says to Blackie, take that cigar box, which I had, I said, you ain't taking my cigar box, because my right hand was strong yet. He said, here, hold on. He took a wad of money out. I never saw that much money in my life. And he gave me 3 $100 bills in the 50s. That's like $1,000, $10,000, who knows? And he gave me, I never saw a $100 bill. He said, now I bought them. He said, you know where the clock is at the Waldorf Astoria? I said, yeah. He said, be there tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. I said, yes, sir. I was there at 10 o'clock. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss the guy. $300, I couldn't believe it. So I'm sitting there, and then Blackie comes. He says, Mr. C wants to see you. And he told me the story. He said, let me explain something to you. He said, I want to give you a job, just doing errands. You'll never get in trouble. I know your whole family. And he explained to me how he knew them and how he got to this country. And he said, your grandpa, your uncle, was so responsible for many of us being here. You'll never be a beggar on the street. Never, as long as I'm alive. And I stayed with him until 73. And he kept giving me more responsibility. And then when, through the years, then I started picking up major money. And because he trusted me, then I started traveling to Chicago, Kansas City. And then being that I was doing that, I knew most of those mob leaders from all over the country. That's when they got behind Senator John F. Kennedy.
And we definitely want to get into that, because that is one of the most fascinating aspects of your life, your knowledge also about the JFK assassination and all of that. But Frank Costello, don't you think, I'm asking again, maybe it's just a coincidence, but don't you think that he actually knew who you were in order to groom you, to take you in there and actually say that you were saved now, or protected?
No, once I had that meeting with him and he knew that I was, that was it. And then we had a meeting with Carlo Gambino. And I walked in with Carlo, and Carlo says, what are you doing, Mr. C? And we went in the back room and they laid the law of the land out. He said, I wasn't going to tell you yet who your family was, because I saw Carlo every day. But, he didn't want me in this world. But he said, you are with us. That's all you got to tell anybody. Somebody said something, or they get smart with you, don't be rude to anybody. Just say, listen, go see my uncles and give them our names.
And you were 12 years old. You were still a child, still a kid at that time, huh?
Oh, my God, yeah. But, again, mixing the dough and everything else, I was very muscular. I built my body up, because mixing 50-pound bags of flour every day, I got strong. And, again, I'm in such health. My kids laugh at me. I still got a 32-inch waist. I'm not one of those guys that one of the guys. I'm still dating young ladies too, I'm fortunate to say.
And from what I've heard, you've been with quite a lot of them.
Yeah, thank God I have good product from it too. I have 2 daughters and 9 sons. I have 11 children. I have 10 grandsons. I got 19 Russo boys. Is that insane? With 10 mothers, though. That makes it unique.
10 different mothers.
Yeah.
Wow. So every time you well, maybe not every time, but occasionally when you met a lady, you had a child by her, or what?
Yeah, I was very potent as a young guy. And I've had 4 of my children being one time with the woman. but I'm very responsible. I took care of them. I did whatever I had to do. And, I have a relationship somewhat with most of them, which is difficult because, they were raised by their mothers and I was the devil. And now a lot of them are coming back to me saying, wait a minute, I love his life. I don't see him being a devil. A couple of my kids are really successful.
But you never heard of, let's say, birth control or anything? I mean, they were just, getting pregnant every time or what? And did you say yes to having the child or did you actually want it?
I'm Catholic, yeah. I said, if you want the child, I'll support it. I was making money. In my teens, I was making a couple $100 a day in cash. And Costello made me very wealthy.
Yeah, we want to know what kind of assignments he gave you as well. But I mean, those children, I mean, those mothers, you never stayed long enough with one woman or one mother to have more children, except one or two that you had.
The last one I had two with. I was totally in love. I had a big wedding. It was a crazy wedding, in fact. And then it was, and I had two kids with a daughter and a son, Luciano and Adriana. They're my last two kids. They're in their late 20s now. My oldest son is 59. He looks like my older brother. When you see this guy, forget about it.
This is incredible, isn't it? I mean, this is quite extraordinary. You started early, as we were just talking about, being 12 years old. I mean, and when you started to work for Frank Costello, a lot of people found him very dangerous, huh? But he wasn't to you.
Oh, no, not to me at all. But, the older guys, as I got to meet every one of them, Carlos Masalas in New Orleans, the Savellas in Kansas City. Another guy who I totally adored until his dying day was Tony Accardo, who was the real boss of Chicago's outfit. And there was only, I really like their organization so much better than the five families in New York, because they were always disputing amongst themselves. Chicago was really well run. And then my relationship with Meyer Lansky, that took me to such another level in the world, which I traveled to Israel. I traveled all over the world for these guys. And I'm still doing some business with them, it's good.
And was that like embezzling money, or what was it really that what kind of assignments did they give you, kind of, if you can talk to us about some of them?
I could talk about everything because they protected me. Like when we were moving, Nick Nitti, who I became partners with, out of Chicago, because Chicago was controlling most of Vegas, and we in New York, other families had, like Detroit had the Riviera Hotel. Every hotel in the original state of Las Vegas, as we know it, was controlled by a mob family. That's why it got so powerful.
Well, also in later years.
Yeah, until the corporations came.
But what about? I mean, the actress Debbie Reynolds. I guess you knew her as well. She had a hotel as well in Las Vegas.
Yeah, but she had a little hotel on Convention Center Drive. I know it well, between the Strip and. Between Mellon Park, right in the convention. I know, a small little hotel. I'm talking about Caesar's Palace, major hotels these guys had. No, but who destroyed that? Howard Hughes. They brought him in. They brought him in to represent the American government, which is, they're not supposed to be in free enterprise.
Would you say that Howard Hughes was involved with the government, like a government agent in some kind of way?
And always, not just an agent. He represented them. He started buying hotels. They gave him specific aircraft contracts that the profit of that money, he buys up hotels. And if you look at who his people were, Bill Dana, I can list every guy with CIA or FBI. Bob Mayhew, forget about it. And the funniest thing is, the guy he wanted to meet, you're not going to believe this, or your audience is not going to believe it. When he got there, I want to meet that guy, Gianni Russo.
Howard Hughes said that.
Do you believe this? Yeah.
But what year was that? I mean, he started in the 40s, or when did
No,
he?
no, no, no. He started buying up the hotels in the 60s and 70s. No, he was around, but he wasn't buying hotels yet. No, that all came after, there was, the last really mob connected guy indirectly, so indirectly that he got away with it for a while, was Steve Wynn. Because, no, but every hotel, I was there, I mean, through the whole 70s and the early 80s. And that's when Howard Hughes bought the Landmark and the Sands Hotel, that's when they started infiltrating it. I mean, they had FBI agents as cocktail waitresses. When these cocktail waitresses were saying they put down $25 a day, they were making $200 or $300. So they really came in to control that. So how I was protected in my business, they actually made me a bona fide courier. I was licensed as a courier. And I was picking up the skim money for the mob on a Monday and bringing it to Chicago first. And then it was getting to be such big money. Nick and I would go to Italy every other week and deposit millions and millions of dollars with the Vatican, which you're not going to infiltrate that.
Well, it's been infiltrated already, huh?
Oh, now it has. I was laughing. That's why this current Pope, which I'm not friendly with, I've been friendly with all the other popes. In fact, John Paul and I got really close. And now he's a saint. My little kids say, Poppy, I can't believe you knew a saint. Because, I got pictures of him and I all over my houses. So with that said, to answer your question, I really wasn't doing anything wrong. So I was stopped by Interpol one time in Rome. I showed them my credential. They couldn't touch the money. And at the Leonardo da Vinci airport, at the steps, was the Pope's vehicles meeting me to take my luggage.
So we all know that the Vatican has always been involved in the secret factions of the government and the mob as well. What kind of money was this? What you say it was not money laundering, or was it drug money?
No, it was from the casinos. See, what they had, the mechanism which the world knows now never did. When the money gets brought to the count room, there's two count rooms. There's a count room that 4 or 5 guys who run the hotel, they're in there first. They divide that money up. Then that money that goes to the second count room is the one that is the official take that the casino has. So that they call it skimming the money. That skim money was put into a vault in the hotel that we either had a combination to or a key, and we would take those bags and take them to where we had to take them. So Nick and I were just taking couriers. So you could stop us, but you couldn't touch the money even because sorry, you can't do it.
So it was actually the Vatican that controlled Las Vegas, or what?
No. They controlled laundering, cleaning the money. No, the mob never gave anybody that authority. And they always controlled the skim. Now they don't have any control there anymore. It's done. It's over with. That whole thing, especially today. I mean, if I tried to do what I was doing then, with everybody having a camera on the street, I'd be doing life somewhere. No, I mean, there was a time thank God I was a part of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I spent 30 years in Las Vegas. I got there in 1959. I left in 89 when I killed Pablo Escobar's guy in my casino.
And boy, do we want to talk about that as well. Certainly, that's such a story. So please tell us, in what way was or is the mob, the Mafia, involved with or connected to the Illuminati, secret society, deep state factions of the hidden government and the Illuminati bloodline families and the Illuminati royal bloodline families of Europe as well, who also arranged and orchestrated the New World Order agenda. Were they in competition with each other and at war with each other, fighting for money and power, or were they actually working together and still working together?
They actually work together and still are. No, that's why now it's really become even harder to operate because, again, that's what I said, these cameras and everything else. That's why the Vatican was just infiltrated by these cardinals about taking money and skimming money. They got a big case going on, but as we all know, I think that case will go on forever and be forgotten. They're not going to destroy the Catholic Church. I mean, the wealth of the Catholic Church is ridiculous.
So did the mob answer to these Illuminati bloodline families?
But they didn't have to.
Or were they just like equal?
No, the Illuminati is the superior of the mob.
And would you say that there are bloodline families beyond the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the Collins family and all of these families that we know about? Do you think there's somebody beyond or above that, or are those the ones, the 13 bloodlines?
No. There is a whole European bloodline that you will never hear about that are like the royal Illuminatis.
Yeah.
Like 7 generations already. Now that's another thing that I love about my life. I get along with everybody. I'm welcome everywhere. Let's put it that way.
And do you and did people in the mob have to become like Freemasons as well in order to do their work protected?
No. See, once there are street people in the mob, there will always stay street people. There are people have 5 families, let's say, or like they have in Chicago, the outfit runs their families. Once you get beyond that, in Sicily, nobody knows who they are. And fortunately, because I was told and they assumed I brought $800 million to the Vatican.
$800 million.
American.
And even at that time, it's quite a lot more than today, huh?
Well, yeah. But the thing is that it's like, you mentioned the name of my book, Hollywood Godfather. It's called Hollywood Godfather, My Life in the Movie and the Mob. But when I first wrote it, I wanted to call it Don't Shoot the Messenger, because they would never take me out because of money I brought. I only have the respect, first of all, because of the bloodline, and never a dime was missing. I've been questioned by everybody, brought in by everybody.
But have you never feared for your life? I mean, why are you allowed, or how come are you allowed to talk about this now so openly? And you're very candid about what took place and what happened, and naming names as well, which is of course very fascinating to people like me and shows like this.
Well, I'm only naming names of people dead. See? That's why now I'm writing another book. They've given me an awful lot of money to write another book, and I can do it now because my next book is going to be about how they organized all the unions in the film industry and the record business, which, as we all know, the jukebox business early on made hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. Even the bees, when you start looking at some of look at the catalog of the Beatles. What's that worth today? It still makes a couple $100 million a year.
Would you say that the Beatles were arranged and orchestrated, or were they real artists? I mean, a lot of people say that they came out of the Tavistock Institute in London.
No, I think like all the different facets of the business, may it be films, you go different genres, there are people who basically should get those accolades. The Beatles are who they were. They created a whole new music. I used to have a conversation with Sinatra, And then Sinatra started wearing tie-dyes and scarves. I said, are you crazy? Get that off. Are you nuts? Then he married Mia Farrow, who nobody can figure it out yet. But no, and what you don't realize, the block I live on, I'm not going to tell you the street number, Sinatra lived with Mia Farrow 5 doors up on this block. So, I mean, and Sinatra baptized my son Luciano. I mean, and Sinatra was not a mob figure. He was a figure for the mob. They made money with him.
How was he involved with the mob? Because we always hear about it. If people don't know anything about the mob, they always mention Frank Sinatra. Of course, he was such a celebrity and everybody knew his songs and all of that. But we hear about him in many, many different areas. In Hollywood, in the movie industry, and of course in music, and in Las Vegas and the mob. And we also hear about him in Illuminati circles as well, because he was high ranking in terms of the working for the government.
Yeah, the reason he's done major concerts that the Illuminati's profited from in Europe and didn't take a dime.
He didn't take a dime.
That's right. See, like myself, why do they respect me? Or not, I wouldn't even go that far as saying they respect me, but they know I'm an asset to them. That's all. I mean, as long as you know who you are, I don't want to be anything else than who I am. I love being Gianni Russo. You know, you want me, I move a lot of money around and I have the conduits to do it. So that's my business. And I report it. I have I'm in certain, well, that's why I'm in Liechtenstein. There's nobody's going there to find out anything. And the Vatican's still a great conduit to do good business if you want to.
Yeah, it's not really about religion, is it? It's really about something very, 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 very different, and it's for power and control, and it's a country that is not part of the rest of the world, right? The Vatican.
No. I mean, think about it. I mean, how long have they been confessing of child molesting and all that? It's always swept under the rug. It's like, they say they deal with it within. I don't know about that.
But what do you know about it? Because this is obviously what we hear, and you were exposed to this when you were 12, and this is when you killed this guy at the sanitarium who tried to molest you. I mean, and we hear about this organized crime, these pedophile child molesters within the Catholic Church, and of course pointing back to the Vatican and all of the cardinals and what have you there. I mean, you knew these popes and you were close to all of these people. Did you see anything happening, child sacrifice or rituals or pedophilia there?
No, I was never privy to that, if that would be a privilege. But they knew who I am and what I was responsible for. They had to recognize me. I can't recognize them. They know who they are. But fortunately, I have the respect from the elders in Sicily, the elders in the Illuminati. Unless I wouldn't be able to do what I do.
So you were never part of the rituals that they're performing, or any satanic rituals or anything that we hear about?
No. I know they go on, but I'm not a part of it. No. Never started. No. If I did, I'd talk about it. But, I'm curious. I mean, as we all are. We've seen motion pictures about it. We know there is a society out there, but it's what La Cosa Nostra used to be, a secret society.
But maybe when you were this close to all of these people within these circles, maybe you had been seeing things that you really, really cannot talk about, which a lot of people come out now and talk about, people having taken part in satanic ritual abuse, and those survivors coming out, or people that were under MK Ultra mind control, and many survivors talk about actually also Frank Sinatra being an agent for that and MK Ultra. What do you know about this?
Sinatra had very few handlers and friends within our group. And Sinatra got to where he was because he was that talented and made that much money for the mob. Think about what he made. I mean, this man, when he was in a building, would increase the casino drop 6, 7, 8 million a day. That's why when he tried to retire, and he had Paul Anka, who was a friend of mine, changed the lyric to another friend who wrote My Way. Lulu Renault wrote that song years ago in Paris. Paul Anka took the credit of saying he wrote it. He wrote the English lyric. So when he's wanted to retire, they gave him that song. Then he got a phone call. Said, who said you could retire? So they wrote him another song, Let Me Try Again, and he came back out.
Well, certainly he had major hits that are still, well, that will remain evergreens. I mean,
oh yeah, yeah,
in the future as well. I mean, you can't really top that. But he was also protected in a way, but you don't really know if he was an agent for the Illuminati in some kind of way. You have no knowledge of this.
No, I have no knowledge of it. Maybe they will protect him because of, like we all know, of his concerts throughout Europe. You know, that money was huge money. And that way in itself, he was protected by everybody. So you read between the lines. Hello.
Yeah, exactly. And he also, very interestingly, he produced, I think, and starred in The Manchurian Candidate from, I think, 1961, was it not, with Angela Lansbury and Lawrence Harvey? And it was about MK Ultra mind control, which was a very real CIA project since Operation Paperclip, and they took these Nazi scientists over to work for the government, and this MK Ultra project went on and on and on. Even though they said they closed it and shut it down.
Yeah, no. But the interesting thing about what you're talking about, I was a part of a situation that was, this kid was a candidate. And I just did an interview about it, and I have my podcast itself, Hollywood Godfather podcast, and Sirhan, they convinced Sirhan that when Robert Kennedy was running for presidency, that if he got in, he would annihilate all the Palestinians. So they put him in that program, and they hypnotized him. And key words that they knew Robert was going to say in his speech at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, he took him out.
Which was a trigger for him that triggered his mind control. Well, an alter, they call it, right? And then he went into that state and that frame of mind, and then he killed Bobby Kennedy.
Right. And see, the situation, which nobody knew, I was privy to that because I was there, and Johnny Rosselli was basically his personal handler after the program he was in. They got him the job at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, and they had gun placements in different areas. And they knew that the Secret Service, how stupid they were, not that they were stupid, they were smart to bring them in this area, that it probably happened going through the kitchen, and it did. And who's there? Him.
But they wanted to take him out, or just to sacrifice him anyway, huh? Sirhan. I mean, he was nothing to them. He was just a pawn.
He was the pawn to get this done.
Yeah.
They knew they had to put somebody in place. Earlier, prior to that, by a few years, was the JFK assassination.
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Well, Lee Harvey Oswald was a tool that Marcello in New Orleans found. And then Chicago wanted their own hitter. New York wanted it. They thought this was too big because John F. Kennedy basically and Joe Kennedy screwed them, because that was my job then. From 58 to 61, I was visiting people, dropping off envelopes and getting the unions to back this senator to become the first Catholic Democratic presidential candidate. And what they were supposed to get, because it's always about money, Joe Kennedy promised that his son, the first duty as president, would invade Cuba and they'd get all their casinos back. Because when Fidel Castro threw Batista out, and he promised he double-crossed him, you know. Fidel Castro had the help of Santo Trafficante, one of our major guys in southern Florida. And then he went against him. And that's what this was all about. And the Kennedys promised over almost a 2-year period that they would invade. We will get this done. And they never did. And that's when they started taking out the Kennedys.
But some people also say or speculate that this was a war between the Mafia and the Illuminati, but you say that they were actually working together.
Together.
Because the Illuminati wanted to have total control, so they took out Kennedy. But maybe that's not the case, because you talk about it actually was the mob who conducted this along with the CIA agents, huh?
Oh, yeah, no, they did it. No, Lyndon Baines Johnson brought him to the target.
Yeah, and it was Johnson, actually, who was behind this.
And then, you know who the backup shooters were?
Please tell us.
There was 3 shooters there. One was my closest friend at the time, and he was the kill shot.
Your closest friend shot him?
Yeah, Johnny Rosselli. He was trained by the CIA.
Was he standing on the grassy knoll?
No, he was in the sewer as they came up. That's why that shot, when it hit John in the forehead, was on the angle it was and blew out his back of his head. Lee Harvey Oswald shot the governor. That's how bad he was.
John Connolly?
Yep.
Some people even say or speculate that John Connolly in that car had a gun, shooting him at a very close range because you could see the smoke, the gunfire, powder.
Lie. It's like Frank Sheehan, who wrote the book The Irishman, said he supplied the guns. We need you to supply guns to the Mafia and the CIA, you jerk. You're from New Jersey. I mean, there's so many crazy stories. I'm giving you the version that I know and heard. I was there.
You were there in Texas?
I was in Texas I'll tell you exactly when. Right just before Lyndon Baines Johnson made the announcement that he'd be his running mate, I delivered a suitcase to Lyndon Baines Johnson's ranch out of Dallas. And guess who my driver was?
Who? Jack
Ruby.
No.
He was running all the mob for us out there.
So who gave you that suitcase? What was in the suitcase that you have to give?
$30 million cash.
To Lyndon B. Johnson.
Here's the deal. John would do 8 years, and then he'd do 8, and they'll control the White House for the next 16 years.
And that was an agreement between them, Kennedy and Johnson.
Done. A done deal. That's the only reason. He hated the Kennedys. Johnson. He had no use for them at all. But this was his chance. And he knew this could happen because obviously the network they had, they did it. And the wealth, not that he needed money, but it's the power. These guys are all, it's...
But if they were working together and they made this deal, why did he take him out? I mean, this traumatized the world and changed the world, actually.
Because you do not double trust the mob and the Illuminatis. The Kennedys double-crossed them. They put Bobby in as attorney general. They were told immediately that's not happening. That's why Joe had a stroke. Joe had a stroke over that.
Joe Kennedy, the father, the matriarch, the patriarch of the family.
And part of the Illuminati and part of everything else with Prohibition, with Costello and all of them.
Did he agree to this assassination, his father, Joe?
No, he was told that if you don't stop your son John from putting his brother in, we're going to take him out.
Was this also because John F. Kennedy spoke openly about exposing the secret societies and this very, very famous speech that he did about wanting to...
That was Robert that encouraged him to do that. He was influenced by his own brother. John was a puppet. I partied with John nights after nights.
So you knew him?
Knew him. I watched him do cocaine lines off of Juliet Prowse's stomach at Jack and Trotter's pool at the Sands Hotel. And I'm sitting there, I'm my teens. I'm saying, this is a president of the United States. I didn't even know what they were doing. I thought they were snorting sugar. I don't know about this cocaine stuff. And it's funny because after he did the line, because Dean Martin had a bad back pain, just like he did. You know, he used to wear that brace, the president, like 20 or 30 pound brace because of his injury in the war.
Like a corset.
Yeah. And Dean Martin introduced him to Percodan. And he was hooked on Percodan. Now he does a line of cocaine. I don't know what it was. I was just there, like I was the eyes and ears that you can never. When I came and told my story, it was gospel. That's all I was there for.
Were you at all influenced by these people or indoctrinated, or were you? Do you suspect that you could actually also have been under mind control in some kind of way?
No, I didn't think that at all. And all my allegiance was the privilege that they've given me and the money I was making. I very selfishly had no allegiance to anybody but me first, and which is still my way of living. But I'm very respectful. I do what I have to do. I never took a dime. I moved money, could never even know how much money. Never took a dime. And they knew that. So
Gianni, please take us, because I know this will be very, very important and fascinating for our viewers to hear your story. What did happen with the JFK assassination? You took money from the mob and went to Lyndon B. Johnson in Texas. Jack Ruby, the killer of Lee Harvey, Oswald, that day after, he
told him he'd be a hero. This was all orchestrated. What was he doing there with a gun at the police station? They had this all set up. You know what's interesting?
So please take us through the whole thing, if you will, kindly, because this is very, very important.
Oh no, I mean that's the whole scenario. They needed a running mate. They knew even with all the unions and everything they had, they still needed the Bible Belt, Texas, and they're only going to get that with a guy like Lyndon B. Johnson. So they sat down and made a deal with him. Once they made the deal, I delivered the money. I didn't know how much, but I carried a lot of suitcases. I got to know how much weight $1 million was.
And this was $30 million in one suitcase.
Yeah.
And you brought, and this was kill money, was it?
Yeah. Yeah. But you ready for this though? What people don't realize, new money from the mint, package from the mint, $1 million could fit into a 9.5 shoebox, a man's shoebox. I used to take them to Switzerland all the time because they're so thin. It's brand new money. So, you know, it's, we used to get money delivered in Vegas every Monday morning from Salt Lake City because they'd take all the old money. We only took new money. So they'd switch out the money. And that's what that was for. That was the money that was going to the Vatican. That's why you can never trace it.
Wow. So did you know that this money, the $30 million that you were delivering?
Oh, I didn't know. I assumed what it was. I didn't know the amount.
You had the idea what was going to happen.
Well, I knew, yeah. I thought, I'd be honest with you, I thought they were going to take out Bobby that day. Bobby was the pain. Bobby was the one that was orchestrating all of this. But they took out John. I still don't know why. To me, the answer would have taken out John. I don't know. I mean, to me, I
But
love.
they did take out Bobby in 1968.
Yeah.
So what happened on, the Dealey Plaza that day? The car was going there. How many shooters?
3 that I knew of. Plus, I was told that the Texas Rangers were the backup on the orders of Lyndon Baines Johnson. They were going to make it look very chaotic. That, this whole idiots came in and shot each other. But, there was a hit list of 73 people.
Yeah, and Oswald wasn't really involved, was he?
No. The Harvey Oswald. Marcelo fell in love with him. He used to listen to this crazy band that they had late at night about communists. And he heard about this guy getting mustered out in Germany. He was a Marine. And he sent for him. And he was living in Texas. And he said, I'll set you up with Fidel Castro. Gave him X amount of dollars. You take out John Kennedy, you'll be a hero. And you can go live with Fidel Castro with open arms as a communist. And then they got, what's the name? And said, listen, we're going to have you there that morning. And you're going to be a world hero because you're going to kill the guy that shot John F. Kennedy. Jack Ruby's such an idiot.
This also ties into something very significant and important. The death of the very famed celebrity reporter, Dorothy Kilgallen.
Dorothy Kilgallen. Hello. She was number 2 on the list.
She was number 2 on the list?
Yeah. She was the last one. 72. Her number was 72. They were going to kill 73 people. They killed 72. Her case is being reopened again. A guy called Mark Shaw just wrote another book because, I was very close to Marilyn and we know who killed her. And the bottom line was that, Dorothy Kilgallen's boyfriend was a mob friend of ours. And they killed her, and just the same autopsy, and she overdosed. She never took a freaking drug, this lady.
Of course not. Absolutely. It's totally suspicious. She was the one that really dug in. She was digging very, very deep, and she knew this whole case inside out, right? She was at the Jack Ruby hearings, and she
was ready to disclose it all.
Yeah, and she knew JFK.
We had a mutual friend that I met. So crazy. I met this guy when I was 15 and a half years of age. His name was Mark Sinclair. His partner at the time was Kenneth. Kenneth was the most famed hairdresser because when Jackie Kennedy, she opened a hair salon for him called Kenneth's. I knew these guys. And guess who found the body? Dorothy Kilgallen. Mark Sinclair.
So please talk about Mark Sinclair, because I've seen videos where he is talking about how he discovered Dorothy Kilgallen sitting up in bed, dead, in a bedroom that she never slept in. That
morning, he went to comb out her hair.
And I think the story of Dorothy Kilgallen is something that's been overlooked, and she's practically been erased from history, and people don't even realize how famous she was at the time, huh?
My God, yeah. At the time, she was on a game show called What's My Line. She was considered one of the top. See, the interesting thing about all the people we're talking about, I met them early. I was in my teens. I used to sit with Walter Winchell, Dorothy Kilgallen at the Copa Lounge. I started going to Copa when I was 13. Frank Costello owned it. It's 1 block from my house. Now, I walk past this every day. 4 number 60 East is where the Copa was. Now it's a friend of mine's restaurant called Avra. I go there all the time just to sit there. It's so deja vu for me.
But I mean, Kilgallen, she was very close to all of these people. She kind of knew them. Wasn't she a part of this secret society in a way, or was she still this reporter who had her free will to expose things as she wanted?
Yes, and they gave it to her because she was good to them. If they needed to have something exploited, she, gave them the column space and all of that. I mean, it's such a interesting web. But like you're saying, who are the puppeteers? You know who they are, but you're never going to know who they are.
So this Sinclair, who was her hairdresser, how was he involved, you say?
Oh, he wasn't involved. I'm saying it's ironic.
He just discovered. Yeah.
He discovered the body.
Mm-hmm. And nobody really knew how that happened. This guy that she was involved with, which was her lover, she supposedly, and she met him the night before she died. He's still alive, huh?
I think he just passed, actually. I think he just died.
Oh.
No, yeah, he just died. If he was still alive, he'd be 102. I think he died at 98 or 99. No. But see, the problem, both of them were married. And the only reason she had to go, she was sitting one night with her lover upstairs in the lounge with Costello and them when they were talking about, and she figured out they're going to kill Kennedy.
She overheard that. She was there listening to this.
I know. That's what aroused her and that's why she sat at every trial. She did everything. People knew she was doing this. That's why they had to eradicate her. You know who the 73rd person was on that list?
No.
Me.
Wow.
And I went to Rome and met with certain people, and they said, now that they got to know me and they knew I wasn't going nowhere or going to talk about anything.
But that certainly didn't happen, obviously. And why do you think you are allowed to talk about it so openly now?
But I'm not saying anything you don't know. I'm not giving away any secrets. I'm not telling you the names of anybody.
So you actually know a lot more than you're telling us.
Let me say this. If I should get a terminal disease, I'll come back on your show and tell you anything you want. If they say you got 90 days to live, I'm going to, not only am I going to say anything, I'm going to kill everybody I think should be killed because of what they did. And I'll do it. You know that. I've done it, so I'll do it again. Easy. No, it's...
So you can only talk a little bit about your own involvement and what really kind of happened, the things that we know already a bit.
Yeah.
But you do know more.
But you know what the interesting thing is this? How long have they been trying to disclose this organization?
Well, it appears to be more powerful right now than ever with everything that has been happening for the last 60 years, including 9/11 and probably also the recent pandemic.
The world powers now, they're joining together. And the biggest obstacle I could see, again, is who's running what country, and that will slow them down.
But it's also part of the New World Order, the same hidden hand behind all of it, huh?
Yep. That's why I'm so insulated. I don't care what they do. I got enough money. I'm leaving enough for my grandchildren, enough businesses. And if you think about all that I do, my food company, my clothing company, wines, liquors, it's a necessity of life. I'm not doing computer chips or creating spy material.
No, so you won't have any problems if they do create these food shortages that they talk about in connection with the Great Reset that they are threatening us with.
You go online right now, and your audience can go online right now go to Corleone, find Italian foods, and I'll ship it anywhere in the world. I'm setting up networks all over the world.
Well, we definitely also want to leave a link to all of that and talk about this. But there is one thing that is, of course, extraordinarily important and fascinating if we go way back. But this is, of course, connected to JFK and the assassination. And this is how you became a man.
Oh, my God. Yeah. What a day. What a weekend, actually.
Please do go into details here, because this is fascinating.
Well, first of all, we're talking about Marilyn Monroe, and right up here on this wall, maybe I could move my, I don't know, or I could take it down.
Please do that.
That's Marilyn and I up here.
Yes.
This is the 4 days before they killed her. That's Frank Sinatra and her here. And this is us at Grand Central Station. She used to sneak out at night and see me, and we would go over to Brooklyn. She loved seeing New York from that side. I was with her for 4 years. Nobody knew it.
4 years? I thought it was just a weekend.
No, the weekend I was out, we met. I went up because Costello had her as a guest. She stayed in New York for a year studying with Lee Strasberg. But this is an actual pillowcase corner. She used to kiss my pillowcase and sign them for me. I can't even tell you how much they're worth, but I'm saving them. But I put this collage together in my little studio here.
And did you take that picture of her at the Grand Central?
Yeah.
You took that picture. So she's looking at you, huh?
Yeah. That's my picture of her. I have so many pictures of Marilyn.
Wow, we'd love to see some of those if that's possible.
Yeah, but the thing is, like you're saying.
But please talk about your extraordinary affair with her, because you were only 15 years old. And she was how old?
I think 31 31 at that time. What happened, I got stopped by a truant officer. I was on my way to Toots Shore to meet Toots and Jackie Gleason and Frank Costello. I was bringing like 5,000. I don't know who was giving it to. So I'm walking there, and a truant officer stops me. I knew he wasn't a cop. He was in a brown uniform. I don't know if you have those. They patrol the streets for kids that weren't in school.
Really?
Yeah. So he stops me and he says, "How come you're not in school?" I started laughing. I said, "What are you talking about school?" Because I'm not 15 and a half. And I had like, maybe 10, 15,000 on me, delivering money everywhere. We're already wearing Briones, and I dressed well because I was representing these guys. So he says, "Well, how old are you?" I said, "I'm 15 and a half. He said, "When are you going to be 16? I said, "In December." So he writes me a ticket. He says, what do I care about this ticket? So I walked around the corner and I got the ticket in my hand. I walk in and everybody's there. They were there every day at this hour. So Costello says to me, "How'd you get a ticket? You walking too fast?" So I gave him the ticket. He says, "It's a truant's ticket." He says, "Yeah, what does that mean?" He said, "How old are you?" I said, "I'm 15 and a half. He said, "This is because you're not in school." He said, "I'll take care of this." I said, "Okay." So the next day I meet him. He said, "You got to go to school for 6 months, but I fixed it up for you. Go to Wilford Academy on top of where I saw Lindy's, one of my stops on 52nd Street. Go up, there's a school called Wilford Academy. I signed you in, tuition's paid. Just go to before you meet me at 11 o'clock, sign in and leave. And then when you're 16, nobody will bother you." So now I go there that morning and I see all these young little girls. 9 o'clock in the morning, there's 30, 40 girls there. I'm already dressed to go see him at 11. I said, I'm going to come here a couple hours in the morning and see all these girls. This is ironic because you and I just spoke about Mark Sinclair. I'm there. Mark Sinclair comes with Kenneth. And at that time, Mark Sinclair was the head colorist for Clairol.
Oh, you knew him personally, even.
That's what I'm saying to you. That's what's so crazy.
That is crazy, though, isn't it? Wow. Everything is connected in your life.
Everything is connected. It's so funny. So now the teacher said, this is Mr. Mark Sinclair. Everybody knew him. I didn't know who he was. And this is Kenneth, like he was the biggest platform hairstylist in the world at the time. And Senator John F. Kennedy's wife and so many other society women. And they need shampoo boys. So I'm all dressed. And they were partners already. And I'm trying to be politically correct. They were gay. Anyway.
Well, they, of course, obviously, they were, huh?
Yeah. No, they definitely were. So the interesting thing is, the teacher said, if they hire you, you'll work at Lily Daché, which is a beautiful place on 56th and Park, and you can make tips, and it counts as your hours. So I said, this is perfect. So I asked for the early shift. I wanted to do 3 hours a day, and they didn't care. And they gave me the job. So now I'm standing at attention, my little white uniform on, and they call me to go upstairs. They give me a card, and they had shampoo rooms. That's how highfalutin this was, not a sink in the middle of the room. And the women all had a beautiful smock on. And it's my fourth head of hair. And they actually taught me how to wash hair Lily Daché style.
So you had to rub the shampoo into the hair of a certain actress or a celebrity woman, or was it just regular people as well?
No, society people. No. And you had to put the water temperature on their wrist temperature, and they okay, and all this thing. So I go in there, and it's Marilyn Monroe. And I'm saying, this can't be, it's Marilyn Monroe. And the reason I knew her, because at nighttime when they all went home, the New York and the Paramount, I'm still involved with the Paramount because of The Godfather. I used to go to Paramount Theater on 42nd Street, because it was open 24 hours a day. I'd go see all the movies from there. These guys go home after 12, 1 o'clock. I watched Cat on a Hot Tin Roof 10 times masturbating in the balcony.
Really?
What is a 15-year-old kid doing? Marilyn starts singing with
You were doing that in the theater?
Yeah. At 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, just sitting in the balcony. Nobody knew. So now this is her. And I don't even know how long I'm looking at her. And she said, is there someone here? Because she's staring at the ceiling. I said, excuse me. And I ran the water, did the thing and all that. And I read the card. She wants a hard shampoo. So, they give her all the rinses she wants. And I'm rubbing her hair. And as I'm rubbing her hair, she's moaning like we're having sex. And I get this erection. Now, understand, everybody knows the configuration of the shampoo basin. So my 3-piece set is on her shoulder. I'm getting an erection. I got to be poking her in the ear. And she's moaning. Now, how am I going to towel dry her hair and walk her out? I got this big teepee in my pants. How am I going to walk it in? And I knew these guys were going to be laughing as hell.
Well, did she feel it?
Yes. She started requesting me every time she came in. And she was very generous. Months go by. Costello says to me one day when I go see him, he says, I have a guest staying upstairs. I want you to check in because I'm going to go be out of town this weekend. It's okay. I go up there and I knock on the door, and it's Marilyn Monroe. And she said, Johnny, what are you doing here? I said, well, Mr. C told me to check in on you. So come in. I just ordered room service. Now, I was never in a hotel suite. She had all these carts with food. She had this beautiful terry cloth robe on. And she said, come in. I came in. She says, have some breakfast. I said, no, I already ate. It was like 12:30. She said, have a glass of champagne. I said, I can't drink. I'm only, 15 and a half. She started laughing. She said, you can do anything you want. You don't worry about it. She gave me a glass of champagne. Well, I never had champagne. So I'm sitting and talking to her, and I'm saying to myself, who's going to believe I'm sitting with Marilyn Monroe? So now we're talking. She said, I'm going to go take a bath. I said, I'll go downstairs. Just call tell the first desk you want the kid, because my nickname was the kid. Nobody knew my name. For years, nobody knew my name. Everybody was introduced as the kid. And that was them again, protecting me. So I saw her go down. She said, no, come with me. She takes me by the hand. We walk in the bathroom and she runs this water. I mean, she had a bathtub. I never saw anything like this. It's a sweep the wall off. So she said, comb out my hair. And she sat down at this vanity. Well, I've done that so many times in the past few months after, I got to take all the snarls out of her hair. And I do, and she lowers her robe. She still covered herself. And I'm saying, I can't believe this. This is crazy. Then she takes me by the hand, shuts off the water, and drops her robe and gets in the tub.
Totally naked in front of you.
Totally naked. She never had any underwear on ever. I found that out later on. And she says, get in the tub with me. I said, you're going to get me killed. As Mr. C finds out, she says, who's going to tell him? Get in the tub. So I couldn't get in the tub fast enough.
And you remove your clothes as well?
Yeah, I removed my clothes. Well, I didn't get in the tub with my clothes on, but I was a gentleman. I got in at the other end, and I'm sitting here. She says, what are you doing there? And she starts playing with my privates with her toes. Well, forget about it. 15. And I'm like, that was a Saturday afternoon. I left Monday morning. I'll leave it to your imagination. It was insane.
Wow. So you actually, was this the first time you had real sex?
Yeah. Yeah. That was the first time.
That was Marilyn Monroe who took your virginity.
Yeah. I love it.
So, I mean, so you spent those 2 days almost there at the hotel room?
When I went downstairs, because he didn't know what I had on that day because he was gone fishing, he says to me, what happened to you? I said, what do you mean? He said, you look so tired. I said, yeah, I didn't sleep well. But I didn't lie to him. I didn't sleep well. I would never lie to him. And he let it go.
So she was like your Mrs. Robinson, just younger.
Oh, yeah, my God, yeah, definitely.
How many times did you do it during those 2 days?
Oh, my God, I don't even know. I mean, it was like insane. But you know what it was how we got together? Because, I told her about, where are you from? How this, that, and the other. I told her about, my polio and all that. At the age of 12 years old, she was put in an orphanage in the Valley in California. And out the window of the orphanage, she used to look at the water tower of Warner Brothers Studio. And she used to tell everybody in there, someday I'm going to be a movie actress. And they always gave her all these beat up magazines. That was our attraction. We just hugged each other. I mean, we slept arm in arm all the time because we were both missing hugs. It wasn't the erotic, all of that. And then as years went on and I met, Tony Curtis, because I did a movie called Lepke, where I played Albert Anastasia, you played Lepke. He told me of his times with her. Marlon Brando, everybody, Sinatra, everybody, but that's all she thought she had to offer them. It's her body. When they wanted it, she gave it.
She was what they call a pass around, right?
Oh my God, what a shame. Yeah.
Yeah, and they really took advantage of her really bad. But I mean, in a way, she took advantage of you, right? I mean, would that be considered, pedophilia today? I mean, you were not even an adult yet.
Well, they would lock her up, but I would never tell her. I would never. I mean, the day I knew she was going to die that Saturday night, when Sinatra had a conversation with her, I didn't know what it was about, but they had her there for a reason, and Robert Kennedy was there.
At that hotel, when you were there during that weekend?
Yeah, Robert Kennedy was there, and Joe, the father, was already there in a wheelchair with him. John didn't show, because this was the last chance. And they felt Sam Giancana set up a bungalow, the show we stayed in, with cameras. And Sinatra asked her to lure Robert into her room tonight, and they're going to film him.
Would you say that Sinatra was her handler in a way?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah. And he was supposed to be John F. Kennedy's handler, and that's why they were going to kill him.
So Sinatra was also JFK's handler.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they were together constantly. That's why at the inaugural, Frank Costello didn't go. He had 2 great tickets. He came to me. Everybody's wondering, who's this guy? I was like 6th row from the podium. I'm not everything, but Frank Sinatra also produced the inaugural balls, every one of them. That's why every star showed up. Sinatra was like Flynn with them. And then he rebuilt his house. Remember, Kennedy was supposed to go there, and Bobby told him, don't go. And that's when they severed their relationship with the mob. Well, the world didn't know Joe Kennedy made the deal that once my son gets in, we're going to invade Cuba and give you your casinos back. That's the only reason they went along with it.
And Marilyn was involved with Robert Kennedy and JFK at the same time, or what?
What happened was, which I found out personally from her, when they were dating, I used to see them together almost every weekend in Vegas. He said, once I become president, I will leave Jackie and marry you. That's how naive she was. So Bobby had to step in and get her away from him and say, let him get comfortable at the White House and give him 6 months to a year, only to have Bobby impregnated her. Nobody knew that. And just before that weekend, she aborted the baby, and she was like a wreck. She went crazy on Sinatra, which she would never do. She said, F you and the Kennedys. I want nothing to do with them. I just aborted a baby. I wanted a baby all my life. I aborted this baby because Ethel and him already had like 6, 7 kids. And he's the attorney general.
So Sinatra did not treat Marilyn very well.
No, nobody did. Nobody. I have to say that. Nobody did.
But a lot of people do suspect that she was a MK Ultra mind control victim, a presidential model. They talk about Project Monarch, which is that specific area of mind control used for sex slavery.
Well, it could be. I don't know that again. I don't know. But they addressed her, I know that, as MM for her initials, but I think it meant something else.
Uh-huh. So do you think that they actually also set up that connection between you and Marilyn?
Oh, no, that was totally accidental. No.
But nobody knocked on the door during that weekend, like Bobby or somebody else there?
They were with their wives. They were never there. No, see, when we were together at the weekend, this was during the grooming before he won the nomination. Then after that, he was with Jackie every day with the kids and doing political stuff. And she said, okay, go ahead and do it. You just let me get into office and be president and I will marry you. And Bobby intervened and that was it.
So you actually saw her on and off and also had sexual relationship with her for 4 years or what?
Yeah.
And do you think she had feelings for you even though you were only 15 and then turned 16 and more?
We had you know what it was? I think we had a unique, the music of the night in New York.
Yes, I know New York very well. Yeah.
Now that your audience knows I'm really in New York.
Yes, absolutely. We can hear it. Yeah, right. So
I think what we had was a genuine relationship. I think, and we talked about it, so I'm not gonna just think it. We both felt that we were making love to 2 people that were in love with each other, not in love like, but needed each other in a genuine way. She was not there for any other reason. I couldn't do anything for her other than to appease her and, make her come a couple of times a day.
Let's get into details, definitely. But I mean, do you think because she was so fragile in a way and a bit infantile maybe, that she was turning to somebody so much younger than her?
I think that was definitely it, because when you talk to her, and everybody thought there was that baby, I think she felt safe being that naive. Then she didn't have to judge herself. You know what I'm saying? I think she'd rather have it that big bad wolf Frank Sinatra's taking advantage of me. But I don't know. And it was such a.
So how was she killed? Because you know a lot of details about her killing, and how did that affect you? You were so close to her and did have feelings in a way, didn't you? That's what you're explaining. So what took place, and how did you feel?
Well, I knew the guy who was doing this kind of work for them. They were doing work for the CIA, doing work for the mob. He was a doctor. He was studying to be an anesthesiologist, and he got into these hot shots. When even the autopsy right now is being overturned. I don't know if you know that.
No, I did not know that.
Oh, you're going to love this one. Dr. Noguchi, who was an intern, head of autopsies in Beverly Hills. That whole situation, Bobby was supposedly nowhere near there. Peter Lawford was pulled over on Sunset Boulevard, and he was in that car.
Peter Lawford was an actor, right?
And he was their brother-in-law. Peter Lawford married one of the Kennedy girls. That's why he was always around. So they have, Sheriff Booker has a report putting Bobby Kennedy, Peter Lawford, in the neighborhood of Marilyn Monroe that night, where he said he wasn't even in the state. But the Attorney General just can't go state to state unnoticed. But again, it was before cameras, before everything else. But how she died was of an aneurysm. This guy was a technician. And what they did.
And you talk about this doctor, right? I just want to know where we are. This celebrity doctor, can you name his name?
No, he's still alive. Hello. No, I will eventually. But I've known 10 hits he did for them. He came and injected her in her pubic area. We all have a fallopian organ in our groin. It's a main organ in our body. And all he was doing was pumping oxygen into that to create an embolism. That's how she died.
And that can kill you?
Oh my God, yeah. Didn't you know that?
No.
Oh yeah. So many people have been killed by oxygen. It's the best way. I mean, normally I'm not me, but somebody would do it right behind the ear. If you were sleeping.
In the ear, they put oxygen. It's like an overdose of oxygen in the ear.
It's a bump. No, you got to hit the main artery going to the brain. You can create a bubble in the brain. That's why when you get blood clots, they want to dissolve them because it goes to your brain, creates an aneurysm.
Mm-hmm. Right, definitely. So you can do that with a machine, and they did that through her pubic hair.
With needles, just pump a big hypodermic needle, put air in it.
So they could never determine what she died from an autopsy. Is that what you mean?
Right, yeah, exactly. It's been done.
And the Kennedys were involved in that, and Sinatra?
No, Sinatra was. He knew. He knew she's dead because she said, "I'm going to the press." Well, now everybody knew. It's only a matter of time, and it was the following week that she was dead.
And do you think that Dorothy Kilgallen knew what took place there as well?
She died the same way. Hello, same doctor. Ta-da!
Now that is very interesting. Yeah.
Marks and clears that in the whole circle.
Do you think he knew?
I don't know, but it to me, when the same players keep showing up with different characters, what are they talking about? And she was so open to him. They were close friends. He had a key to her house. So, I'm doing a stem cell program right now, and they say I'm going to live to 115, unless, I have an accident or something.
So this is gene therapy. They call it stem cell therapy, where you get rejuvenated or your cells or what you. I mean, is that what it is?
But see, my situation, I got shot out here about 12 years ago, and they rushed me right up to New York Presbyterian Hospital because of the connections I have. And they removed the bullets, and they noticed while they were doing the robotic surgery that the left side of my body is dwarfed to my right side. So I'd be a perfect candidate. So after I healed, they asked me if I'd become part of this research. And I said, well, why? They said, well, we realized the left side is dwarfed from the right side. We don't have anyone who's a living specimen where we could take your cells from the left side and put them on your right side and put them on the left side. Because
of the polio.
Yes. Now I get a haircut every 2 weeks. My skin, my skin is not, a 78-year-old man's skin. It's stupid.
Absolutely.
Eventually, I'm going to tell you everybody's name because I'm going to outlive them all anyway.
Right. But I mean, stem cell therapy is used for making clones.
I know. I love it. No, and it's $35,000 every 90 days, which I don't pay because I'm a part of it.
Do you think, or do you know of any living person who now is a clone or has been cloned?
I know of one that was created in Denver. I can't give you the name because they're very wealthy people. And he was cloned for a different reason. He was a child. The person had numerous kids. They had a set of twins, and nobody was a match. And the kid had, I think, leukemia or some kind of blood disease, and they needed those cells. And this man had enough money. They created an embryo that the wife carried full term and had this baby, specifically of everything of this kid. This kid looks like his brother that's 2 years older than him.
A total replicant.
Exactly.
And I mean, we know this has been going on, and this is public that they've done this to animals. Even Barbara Streisand had her favorite dog cloned 5 times. So I mean, if that can happen to animals, of course it can happen to humans. And what we've also heard from several researchers into these esoteric fields is that a lot of people, even people we see in the public arena, are clones. I mean, that is at least what some people speculate that they are or say that they are.
Well, if they keep going as well as I think it is, I may have a twin hanging out here soon. Why not?
You can have a younger version of yourself.
No, the same version. I don't care about the looks. I don't think they could do that because the cells they're transmitting now are these cells. I mean, I don't know. Can it be create a guy 30 years old as me? I don't know that.
But it is certainly absolutely fascinating and also extremely scary, of course, because what cannot take place. I mean, people speculate about certain politicians being cloned as well.
Well, the news I do know, if you have enough money, some people in the next 10, 20 years will never die until they're 200, 300 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You should keep buying body parts. It's like having an antique car and just keep buying new engines for it.
Yeah, and a lot of people, certainly in the circles you've been in, they have all the power and all the money they want. It's not even a question of money, is it?
Stupid,
So, I mean, you were also related, or I mean, you were connected to the Clintons. You've told some fascinating stories about Bill Clinton, even on the day of the 11th of September 2001, when the towers collapsed. Can you tell us that story?
Well, we were together during 9/11 by accident, because nobody knew about 9/11. We were over in Double Bay, Australia, sharing the Ritz-Carlton in Double Bay, and Carl Solomon was our host, an industrialist there. We were there for a charity event. And then I was in bed, and I'm hearing the helicopters hoovering over our balcony and guys coming down. I thought I was watching a science fiction movie, and they were frogmen coming to airlift the ex-president. And I learned something about history. Every living president during that, other than Pearl Harbor, we were never attacked on our land, meaning the United States. And they airlifted him, and I was hanging out with him for, 5 days. I mean, this guy I hung out with Elvis, Sinatra, I hung out with a lot of people. Nobody is a bigger womanizer and magnet to women than this guy.
So the whole Monica Lewinsky thing was just a cover-up, just nothing, basically.
Nothing.
So Bill Clinton is actually a womanizer, you say?
Oh my God, yeah.
And how were you connected to him? Were you also connected to Hillary?
No way. Oh my God. She called me and threatened me. It was so funny. That's when she threw her hat in the ring where she was going to run. And her campaign man, I did a Howard Stern show back. It's you could probably get it online. And we were talking about Bill Clinton and I being together, hanging out. And we talked about it, at length. So I get in my car, driving from 57th Street to my apartment, and my phone rings in my car. That's her office calling, and said Hillary Clinton's campaign manager. So I said, hello. So we just heard you on Stern. Mrs. Clinton has a deal. They do not talk about his private affairs. I said, who she have a deal with? She said, Bill. I said, well, I got no deal with him. I hung out. They called me right back. She said, did you just hang up? I said, yeah. She said, when we become president, you'll be dust. I said, when you become president, I'm leaving the country.
So you were threatened to become dust, taken out.
Yeah, whatever that means.
So we've heard a lot of people say that she's not a very pleasant lady, and some people say she's a high priestess or something within the Illuminati circles. What are your thoughts on that?
Food for thought. I know so many famous couples, rich, poor, whatever they are. I don't know any couple who has 63 friends, 63 close friends that committed suicide.
That's a lot.
I would say.
Absolutely.
I don't want to be a Clinton friend.
But you did know him, and you were involved in, let's say, were you involved with some orgies with him?
No. We were active with the same women in the same suite, yeah.
In the same suite at the same time?
In beds together, no.
But how did you even get to know him?
Just got to know because we were on this trip. He knew me, they knew me. And I was like the Chico because he'd leave with the security. And this Bobby would come and say, the girl in the black dress he likes, the girl in the yellow dress, put him in your car and take him to the suite. So I was like his pimp for the week. Well, I love the guy.
But I mean, so they were living quite separate lives, him and Hillary, or what?
Long time. I heard they were living separate lives even before they came to Washington.
Yeah, and some people also speculate that she's not that interested in men.
No, I know that to be a fact.
There is so much to talk about. There are so many topics, so many amazing names and stories that are fascinating, and also some of the most outrageous things that we can, well, let our audience know that you've talked about your ordeal with Escobar, and when you killed that person's self-defense at your casino in Las Vegas, and Elvis Presley, and so many other amazing stories that you have. And we would certainly love to do part 2 with you so that we can cover a lot of that along with your whole history of being in The Godfather. Marlon Brando being your acting teacher, Frank Sinatra being your singing teacher, and all of those things. So if we could do a part 2 soon, it would be wonderful.
No, it'd be my pleasure. Thank you so much, though, really. And I appreciate your whole staff. Everybody's very professional, and let's do it again.
And of course, you have a website, you have several websites, and also where people can find out more about your products and your business and your Godfather wine and everything you are doing at the moment. And they can also purchase your book, Hollywood Godfather. And we'll get into many more fascinating and extraordinary details in part 2, where we will have you on the show again and go really in depth, which we have done today. And it's been absolutely fascinating and really, really interesting to hear your story on so many levels, I have to say.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the Hollywood Godfather, Gianni Russo. This has been really, really fascinating, and we are looking forward to having him on the show again for part 2. Thanks to all of you for watching Age of Truth TV. You can support us by clicking onto our website, ageoftruth.tv. And please like our videos, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell for notifications. You can sign up for our newsletter on our website, ageoftruth.tv as well. And please also subscribe to our alternative channels on BitChute and Brighteon. And please follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. Your support is greatly appreciated and very needed. On behalf of the Age of Truth TV team, we thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.